oh my goodness, there's just so many facets to this, but it all makes sense. It's like it all sums it up. Everything comes together. Like this is all pieces, small pieces to a larger puzzle. And you said that before. And I guess this was the part of the puzzle that's just a little bit more complex for me, to fit the pieces in. But it's making more sense now. Having you to explain it like this. Rob, I have a question about why we should work with demons. What is the draw? What is it that we are supposed to get from that? I'm having a lot of trouble in that area. I'm having some blockages, and I just don't understand. I just can't figure out. I know you've explained it, but I don't quite understand it fully. Why is it that we're supposed to work with them?
Okay, and I wanted to just clarify. You're not specifically asking why should we work with any spirits. You're asking specifically which type?
Demons, or the ones that are known to be traditionally more taboo. I would like to hear, I kind of know of other spirits, but those are the ones. You can touch on that as well, but I'm having trouble with the ones that are just more taboo. And I want to get over that barrier. So I'm just hoping you can shed some light for me, because I can't, for whatever reason, I'm having a block and I'm not really understanding.
Okay. All right. Now, normally I would ask, well, what is your definition of demon spirits or demons or whatever? But I think mainly the taboo that you're referencing here is the definition and the atmosphere associated with these types of spirits. Like, I guess to ask you straight up, what do you think these things are that you're working with? Because I know earlier you said something really, really key. You said that there was a fear that maybe these things could cause harm to your soul, or you could get possessed, or it could cause something negative to happen to you personally, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I mean, that's what I've been taught, coming from a Catholic school background, and, family, the things that they say, stay away from. It's just really a taboo thing. And I feel like I'm also tiptoeing around, hiding, those type of things. So that in itself seems like something you should not be doing.
Yeah. Sneaking around to summon spirits. I can understand that.
Exactly. Like, so, everyone gets the angels and those types of things, but yeah,
because that's relatable, right? They talk about 2 or 3 angels in the Bible, so clearly it's something that's okay. But really, what I try to teach in this class, first off, in the Spirit Summoning Master system, is that there's these distinctions between these spirits have more to do with the relationship to consciousness to matter, right? So in the movies where we get all this propaganda from, we're thinking that there's these devil creatures in some dimension lurking, waiting to cause us harm. But that's simply not true. We're dealing with different aspects of consciousness. And really, if you zoom out, consciousness is one thing. It's an umbrella that covers everything. So there isn't anything separate from what we call God or from what we call our soul, even these so-called taboo things. And to be quite honest, in this course, I don't even recommend or suggest working with any of those particular types of spirits, because it isn't useful or appropriate. If the goal for us is to reach a type of spiritual enlightenment or some type of increased capacity of consciousness to attain a closer relationship with God, however you want to say it, if that's our goal, then if we were to work with those type of spirits that you're talking about, the benefit would be to neutralize their influence in our lives. The same way that we would take a vaccine to battle against some type of virus or sickness we have, right? You have to take a little bit of it so that the body can recognize it and create its own, its own medicine to treat the illness. So in working with these dark spirits or whatever that we want to say, it isn't like you're sitting in this dark room with candles and calling a demon forth. The negative ones that you're speaking of, they represent different aspects of human consciousness, the dark side of our personalities, our anger, our depression, things like that. Not so much devils in the corner waiting to hurt us, but they literally represent the influences that cause us to behave in certain ways. If we don't have antibodies, just like in your physical body, if you don't have antibodies against a certain illness, you're susceptible to it. So dealing with these type of spirits, what we're actually doing is neutralizing their effect on our personal lives.
Neutralize it. And how are we neutralizing? Just by working with them just a bit, like you said, like a little bit of a vaccine. I think you explained.
To make it more clear, I guess we can use an example. Let's say that someone has an anger issue, right? Someone they fly off the handle very easily. This has always been a problem. Someone who's probably a Christian would probably blame that on the devil, would blame that on some type of demon. They'd say they're possessed. They've had this angry spirit following them, whatever. No, it's very easy for most people to just shove the blame off onto something external, right? Not wanting to take accountability. That's what most people do when they talk about these demons and devils. They're simply not taking accountability for themselves. So in this case, working with a spirit like that, what we're actually doing is using a symbol to represent that lack of control over our emotions. So sure, you can find a spirit that represents pure anger and rage. But what you're actually doing is getting a symbol that represents that individual's incapacity to handle their personal emotions. And working with that spirit, what that actually means is actually shadow work. That means facing this anger, this rage. Where does it come from? Why do I behave like this? What has triggered it? Whenever I'm triggered to be angry, what spiral do I go off into? That's what working with that spirit is. It's not cutting blood and killing animals and whatever the hell Hollywood says. There's a lot of spirits that are assigned to different aspects of consciousness, and working with them simply means facing them, looking in the mirror of yourself.
But I think, and that really makes it a lot more approachable. But the thing I think that that's in the back of my mind subconsciously is you hear of people having the breaks, in their mind, where their mind will go, they'll snap or go crazy. Is there some danger like that of happening? I'm assuming if you work with them responsibly, it won't happen. But it's the fact that you can step off that edge and go there. Is that something to be concerned about?
So here's the thing with that. That fear of going crazy or falling off the deep end because of working with spirits, you're talking about a person who is already capable of doing that. You get what I'm saying? They're gonna have that potential no matter what they're doing. They could snap working at Winn-Dixie and Walmart. It's not the magic. It's not the spirits. It's not astrology or tarot. And this is what I'm talking about as far as taking accountability. We, in today's society, we want to blame everything. You're not going to snap if that's not who you are. But if you're someone who does have a lot of psychological and emotional issues that have not been neutralized or dealt with, that's a potential for that person. If that's not you, that's not going to happen.
I don't feel I have those issues, but what if you tap into something that you didn't realize was there, or you didn't just prepare properly, and it was something there that maybe you pushed down inside or blocked.
Mhm.
What about those situations?
And that's another good question. This is why I really recommend the shadow work first, because
Mhm.
whether it is shadow work or working directly with spirits, we're doing the same thing. You're getting
Mhm.
closer and closer to building a bridge and a connection between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. That's all we're doing here. So if we're doing it with shadow work, it's it's a softer way, right? You're still facing the mirror, you're still facing the aspects of yourself, but you're doing it in such a way to that's more logically and socially acceptable, we'll say. But then if you're working with these spirits, you're approaching it from an abstract angle. You're really personifying those things within you and projecting them outwards.
Mhm.
So if you do have such things inside, and you know, we all have something that we've tried to bury. That's why it's part of the shadow. Hopefully through that shadow work and through learning the different things like I teach, like about yoga and non-attachment, maintain your frame. Hopefully by practicing those things over and over, when you do encounter something that is emotionally intense, you won't allow it to override your common sense.
Mhm.
Because even though we use trance states to access these parts of ourselves, at no point are we out of control. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like there's nothing that we can do here that's going to put you out of control. Like you'd have to be taking some type of drug or alcohol substance or something like that.
Mhm.
But if you're going into meditation, if you're going into trance, if you're working with candles and spirits, like you're not going to behave erratically like that.
Mhm.
Unless, of course, that's who you are already. And like I said, you're going to snap anyways if that's who you are.
Well, let's take it back a notch. What if you're someone who you don't know you possess the gift, or you may have a gift, or just being able to pick up on spirits? I know I've heard many times when people start to evolve
Mm-hmm.
in that area, they'll see spirits out of the corner of their eyes, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Things move. How do you deal with those types of scenarios? And I think that was another block for me too, because I didn't want to. I mean, we've all probably had some type of psychic type experiences, and I've had but I have not seen the spirits in the corner of my eye or something move across the room. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess those are kind of a little bit scary to me, coming into those type of scenarios.
Okay. Now, and those things do happen. They don't happen to me as much as you might think, but they do happen.
Mhm.
It does depend on the individual. Like my cousin, who I work with a lot, it happens with him a lot. And the main thing that I've learned is that it's all about how you approach it. It's all about how you handle it. Most people who have fear in their hearts already, they're going to be afraid when they see those things. And we
Mhm.
know that comes from the movies and things like that. But if you learn to approach it in a very neutral way, non-attachment, that's the main key in all this, to be able to not let these things disturb you emotionally. Because I've had people call me and try to pay for consultations to help them get rid of spirits. And
Mhm.
it's like they want me to chant some words, like they don't want to take accountability. For example,
Mhm.
there was one girl, it's kind of funny, she had a date over and she has these things that bump around in her attic, and it kind of scared away her date. So she was pissed off, because it was about to get into it. But she asked me, she's claiming that they're evil spirits. They done
Mhm.
chased away what she was about to get. Da, 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 da. And I'm saying, well, consider what if they're actually trying to help you? What if this was something you weren't supposed to get into?
Oh.
Nah, it's evil. Evil. It's evil. How do you know it's evil? Because they scared away my man. Again, what if this was something that you weren't supposed to, But basically, my suggestion was go up and maybe ask them what they want. Nah, just give me a spell to get rid of them. I had to give her money back because she wasn't even considering any other.
Wow. She just wanted you to give her a spell, do the work, and be done.
Right.
Hmm.
But like I said, it's how you approach it. All these things are not inherently negative. Now they can become negative if we approach them in a way that we're afraid and, just throwing fear at it.
Yeah, and I think for me that has been a huge block because um I've had family and friends have had experiences, with ghosts or seeing spirits. I have
Mhm.
family that can see them. They have the whole visual and auditory uh, gifts. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, if I start, my thing is, I got to be ready. I haven't had that experience, that first, startling experience. And I'm like, how am I going to handle that? It is a fear of mine because if I start doing this work, it's something's going to happen.
Yeah.
So how do you, again, working with the shadow work, doing the shadow work, that is the key from what I'm hearing you say. There's really no way around it, right? It's just you got to do that work.
Let me say this. And
Hmm.
doing that shadow work is key. What I specifically mean by that is
Hmm.
the shadow work should help to train you into a new behavior set. So what I mean is by doing the shadow work, it should train you in such a way that you behave differently. So when emotions and thoughts that come up that may be painful or frightening, instead of running from them or instead of trying to mask them or bury them with other problematic behavior, instead you face it without becoming emotionally disturbed and you ask the right questions. Why do I want to run? What about this specifically causes me fear? How can I behave differently so that this is no longer a problem for me? That's what shadow work is. It should train you to start thinking in that way.
I see. How do
So
you? Hmm.
to go back to what you were saying about like being seeing these spirits and triggering an episode where you might encounter something visually or auditorily, if you have that level of self-control about you, you might surprise yourself honestly, where when something happens you are not triggered to run, instead you stay with a clear mind and you observe. You might surprise yourself.
Hmm. True.
Have you ever done something that you thought was scary but then realized it was?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, how do we know we're ready after doing the class, the shadow work, what you teach there? How do we know when we're ready though? Like really ready, not just going through the steps and the motions.
You know when you're ready, when the time comes and you behave differently. It's
Okay.
just like practicing martial arts or something like that. MMA or any type of fighting. Hell, even sports. They train, they train, they train. And when the game comes, they perform in the same way that they trained.
Hmm.
Versus somebody who doesn't ever train. Now they're in a fight or now they're on the field. The person with the most awareness and the most skill is going to succeed.
Hmm. Makes sense.
Um, like me, for example, I've had emotional issues. I've had things that I was depressed about, sad about, angry about. I did the shadow work myself, and these things, they still pop up, but I behave differently.
Hmm.
I'm able to handle these triggers so they don't send me off into an emotional spiral or a mental spiral. I live more consciously now. So you'll know that you're ready when you behave in a different way than you used to.
Okay. And I'm processing this and forgive me if I'm sounding like I'm going in circles, but the whole point in working with spirits in general is
Mm-hmm.
to be able to em- mm, embrace every aspect of your mind, have an experience like some familiarity, like overall. I guess what is the purpose? It's part of the journey of enlightenment. Like, I guess what are we on here? What is the purpose?
I think you said it perfectly that first time.
Okay.
Embracing every aspect of your mind. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
said in the beginning of this course, what I
Mm-hmm.
really laid out was that there's only two different forces in the universe, and that's consciousness and matter.
Mm-hmm.
The world of matter and the world of consciousness. They Matter behaves as if consciousness doesn't exist, and consciousness behaves as if matter doesn't exist. But in the middle, there's life. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's not simply a third thing called life. There's an infinite variety in between. Now, at some point in that in betweenness, we find ourselves, human mind. Now, above and below, there are other facets and slices of consciousness mixed with matter, right? Look at ourselves. My body and your body is composed of matter and a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of different patterns of matter, like a heart and lungs, fingers and bones. Those are patterns of matter, but they're operated by this invisible thing called consciousness. That's everybody. That's every animal and that's every life form. Some life form is more dense, like mountains and trees. They're
Mm-hmm.
alive, but not in the same way as us. So that
Mm-hmm.
would mean that there's also life forms that are less dense,
Yes.
and the infinite patterns continue. There's even life that is so subtle that it barely has a form, and there's life that doesn't even have a physical form.
Mm-hmm.
And just like our bodies have patterns like hearts and lungs and all that stuff, there are
Mm-hmm.
also patterns of life. Now, if you keep zooming out, back to what I said, you're going to have one big chunk called consciousness, one big chunk called matter. And working with different aspects of our personality, we get a better understanding of who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as above, so below, when we work with these different aspects of consciousness, we get a better representation of what God actually is, or
Yes.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that sums it up. That
Now, this
definitely
thing,
sums
go
it
ahead, go
up.
ahead.
No, I'm sorry. That it and it's interesting because I I have I've watched the courses and I yeah, it oh my goodness, there's just so many facets to this, but it all makes sense. It's like it all sums it up like that everything comes together. Like this is all pieces, small pieces to a larger puzzle. And you
Mm-hmm.
said that before. And I guess this was the puzzle. This was the puzzle, the part of the puzzle that's just um, a little bit more complex for me, to fit the pieces in. But it's making more sense now. Um, Having you to explain it like this again, it's the blocks. I feel that my mind has just really been blocking this, but that's why I felt I needed to take this, and I want to continue. I want to face it, because it's important to me. I don't want to have any fears. So
Yeah,
when it
I
comes to
think
this work. Hmm.
I think we can honestly say the fears come from previous programming,
Yep.
previous beliefs. When you really look at this thing, especially the way that I describe it, there's no room for those same fears to exist. Like the model that I talk about, consciousness and matter. There's no like hell full of demon spirits that are out to torture you and possess you. Like that don't even fit there. And this isn't even something that I made up myself. Like this comes from some of the most ancient teachings on the planet, from Samkhya, from different types of yoga.
Yeah.
This is where we get most of our spiritual concepts from. This whole concept of like evil demons and stuff, that's brand
Yeah.
new. Like in the big scale of history, that's brand new. Like when Christianity came out. I mean, sure, there were harmful intelligences. Like I said, they personified sickness, they personified mental illness and things like that. But that's part of the human condition. That's not like these evil monsters lurking somewhere.
Hmm. But you do have energy that, I mean, okay, let's go back again to ghosts. they are energy that just did not want to leave the physical form, and they're trapped, right? I mean, I don't know. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
Generally, that's what it is. So I know that, like, I know, I have friends that have had experiences where they had a physical experience, felt them crawling up their leg in the bed, that kind of thing. What is that? My friend, she didn't volunteer to have that happen to her, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not consciously. uh,
Yeah.
but
And
mhm.
go ahead.
How does that happen? Like, where does that come from? How did she invite that? No. I mean, generally, there that energy is in that space. I'm thinking. I don't know. See, it's those areas, those gray areas that make me wonder. Like, okay, what am I tapping into when I'm
Hmm.
doing this work? Yeah. So I know what you're saying, but there's these other areas.
Yes.
Hmm.
I do talk about that kind of thing in the course as well. There's like that type of thing that belongs to her.